War Eagle War Report family, I'm your host, C Dub. Tonight we discuss the transfer portal as well as the NCAA cracking down on NIL. All that and more on a new live experience that we are debuting tonight, the Midweek Report. Everyone, War Eagle, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the latest and greatest, brand new, actually, Midweek Report. I'm joined by Mike G, Ike Jones, and B Will. And this show is brought to you by our show sponsor, AuburnSports.com. Guys, head over there to get your latest in recruiting and all news Auburn athletics. We want to thank JG Tate for showing love to us and being a supporter of the War Report. Speaking of supporters, we want to send special love to the best family within the Auburn family, the War Report family. Guys, whether you're watching live or on replay, you know what to do. Share this video on social media using hashtag #GetYourWeight and help people to find our content and help us grow our community. Guys, speaking of community, you need to be a patron. And Ike is here to tell you all about how you do that.
Yeah, you need to come on board. Listen, man, it's the month of May. May the 4th be with everybody. It's the month of May. The War Report is pulling out the big guns, man. I'm telling you right now, you need to come on board. This is your last warning before you start missing stuff. This is the absolute last warning. I'm trying to tell you, because once we start announcing things, you're going to be like, oh, man. Somebody, hey man, y'all gonna let me share your War Report? No, can't share anything.
This is a very threatening announcement.
It's what it is. It's the new Midweek Report. We're not playing no games no more.
Sound like a mixtape.
$5.99 per month, man. Y'all come on board and get down with the best to ever do it. The War Report family, man. It's not just us, it's all of y'all, man. So we appreciate all of y'all, man. We got some wonderful things in store for you. Lee County Humane Society is who we are partnered with to do some good in the community. So make sure that you get on board with that. Go to thewarreport.com. The link is also in our About section. Just go to the GoFundMe, donate whatever money you want to that. The more money we have, the more that we can give away, man. 50 cents on every dollar goes towards that wonderful cause. Today, and with every show, it ain't changing just because we changed the name. We are giving away a t-shirt, an AU t-shirt right here. Get your weight up in the comments. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to be a part of this giveaway. We're going to give this away. You have to be present to win. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services is sponsoring this giveaway. We appreciate that very much from our guy, Walt Taylor, for doing that. The War Report podcast is still in full effect. We've got podcast-only content that's dropping out there for you, doing some rebroadcasts of some of these things that you can find on YouTube, but you need to be locked in over there. Make sure you are on board with what we got going on in the podcast world. And special shout-out to our guys at the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use code Rapport if you want to get your gummy on or whatever, healthy herbal supplement you would like to partake in. Rogue Shop has you hooked up right over there. Use code Rapport to get a little something off of your next purchase. Yeah. Appreciate y'all very much.
Guys, how are y'all doing, man? It's first episode of a Midweek Report. How are y'all feeling this week, Mike G?
You know what? I feel great, actually. I think that it's going to be a good couple. I think Auburn basketball is going to give us something really to cheer about over the next few days. We got Janai Broom. Note the enunciation, Janai. Man, if we somehow, if Bruce can get one more in here, this might be crazy. This might be the craziest team we've seen at Auburn ever. And I think we saw some really good teams the last 4 years. So, oh man, I'm telling you, it's a great time to be an Auburn Tiger. And I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised by Auburn Sports over the next 6 months.
Well, you went ahead and queued it up. We're kind of here then already. There's a special person who won't be watching live with us, but they're always here in spirit. So much so to where we have a challenge.
Ah, yeah. Welcome to another Jazzy Challenge.
The Jazzy Challenge is, gentlemen, does Auburn get Julian Phillips? Now, I found a loophole in this question.
Okay.
Because typically we have to give an answer, but he says correct answers. He put an S at the end when he DM'd me. So that means we can give more than one, right? When you put an S on the end of it.
So for each correct answer, so if all four of us say the same thing, he has to give $300 a piece. And we're
Not
all
necessarily.
Right?
It's just if three of y'all get it wrong, I get it right, we still get the 300.
Okay.
Jazzy, if again, because you're not here to say yay or nay, I'm running with that. So now, what say you, B?
If you were to believe a couple of accounts that kind of do predictions, then no, he's going to go to Tennessee or the G League. Even though the general sentiment is that we have a very good shot at landing him. So I'm going to say no.
I'm with B. B. I'm just going no suspense here. I'm going no.
Yeah, we're going to get him just to be contrary.
Okay.
Okay. Ike?
Yeah.
He said we're going to get him.
Yeah.
Ike says yeah. You said no. You said, yeah, we're going to get him. Why not? Just because we're split. Now what you going to do, Jazzy? Can't even pick the majority. All right. So we'll see how that turns out. I am leaning towards us not getting them just because of how news fluctuates, but you just never know.
It would be so crazy though. Like, what a crazy offseason where Walker leaves and Jabari leaves, and then you somehow get better. This is what it's going to take to compete as a new blood, because you're going to turn over talent and you have to be able to replace that talent frequently. Bruce is showing us something. You know what I don't think is helping him?
What's that?
NIL. Right. I don't think it's open at all.
Right.
I think he could just recruit and prove to guys that he can develop.
Right.
This is all Bruce.
And I'm amazed at how the depth that we have on this roster. Should we get Phillips? Like, we're already ridiculously talented as is, but to bring him in, you basically have a starting five coming in off the bench for a lot of schools to replace the talent we have. Like, that's nuts. That is crazy. So I'm excited to see how that plays out, but basketball looks like it's going to be exciting yet again next year. Let's talk about football, shall we? Give you guys some numbers. Since the end of last year, the 2021-22 season, and before the start of spring ball, Auburn had a total of 16 players to enter the transfer portal. Auburn had 2 players to enter the transfer portal during spring practice. That's Demetrius Davis and Roe Torrance. Davis went down the street to Alabama State. Roe Torrance went to Arizona State. However, after the deadline to enter the portal came and went, AU had no players to enter the portal post-spring practice and player evaluations. What's so interesting about that is that a year ago this time, Auburn had 8 guys to leave the program. Now, Harson recently spoke about this, and he indicated that he wasn't surprised and actually leaned into this being a positive in terms of players buying in, wanting to be a part of the program, wanting to develop in the program. Examples of that is you had Javaris Johnson, Marquise Robinson withdrawing from the portal. That's something to make note of as well. So my question and I'll start with you first, Ike. If fans were panicking about players leaving, by the same notion, shouldn't we be rejoicing because no one left?
No,
to
you're
go
not
to?
allowed to rejoice about anything Brian Harsin does if you were upset at anything that was happening with the program before. That's
Come
not that's
on.
I don't know that that's legal, because you have to actually like continue to be sour about things so that you can be right. It's more important that you're right than Auburn succeed, actually. So so yes, that is really like it's requisite at this point in time, is to double down on reasons why it's bad. So yeah, no, they can't rejoice at all. Sorry, it's against the rules. It's in handbook of hater, the hater handbook, chapter 3, somewhere around page 4 when I read it last, is that you have to double down on all bad takes. Is right there.
Where'd you get that book?
Say something stupid, double down.
I found it. I found it in a Kentucky basketball fans.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the trash, but that'll work too.
That's the
Same
thing.
thing.
Same energy.
Same thing. But should we is this a positive sign, Mike G, that there's actually evidence of some stability within the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it means a lot of guys understand where they stand coming out of the spring. Now, what do we know just happened? Brian Harsin has spent the last week and a half doing player evals. What does that look like? Player sits down with his position coach, gets a lot of specifics on what they need to improve, where they're at, things they're doing great, things they're not doing great. Then they sit down with the head coach, and the head coach talks a little bit more big picture, but also says, here are our goals for you. Here's how you did with the goals that we set for you, and here's what you got to do going into the summer and coming into the fall. And so guys sat through all that and said, I'm not transferring. It's important to get those evals done because the portal, deadline was May 1st.
Right.
And if you had your name in the portal, you had 48 hours to take it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you're stuck.
So yesterday, that was it.
So if you didn't get your name out of the portal before midnight last night, you're in the portal. Or you cannot return to the school that you left. Right. So I think it's a really positive sign. I've been just big on if these guys are getting the feedback that they need to be able to improve. And it's easy to get guys to stay if those guys understand where it is they stand in terms of seeing the field and achieving their goals as well, too. So aligning goals is super important for a coach and his players. I'm a player. I got things I want to accomplish. I'm a coach. I have big picture things I want to accomplish. Here's the role that I want you to play in that. How do those things line up in terms of team success and individual success? Sounds to me, from what we've heard, that they're pretty aligned in some areas. So I dig it. I think it's a good sign.
Do you think, something that you've alluded to, Mike G, a follow-up question to you is you talked about your concerns as it pertains to the communication between player and coach, right? And the players understanding what their role is and what the vision is, right? With the adjustments that it appears that Harsin has made, at least in terms of becoming more personable, doing activities with the players, is it possible to just hope that that's something that we've seen Harsin make an adjustment in as well in terms of the communication between players and coach?
Yeah, I don't think one necessarily has to do with the other. I've questioned whether that communication was happening, but I don't think that Brian Harsin just learned how to relate to players. Right. He's been a coach for a very, very long time. I think he had some adjustments in how he does it here at Auburn and how he runs a program, because there are a lot more moving pieces to doing it at a Power 5 school as opposed to Boise State. The kids are more high profile. Their parents want to know a lot more about what's going on with their kid. They're very hands-on. And if Auburn is not the place, then they want the information to be able to make the best decision for themselves. And they don't want a millionaire lying to them for his own gain.
Yeah.
That's all it boils down to. So I don't think that he suddenly became good at it. I think that they are understanding the public relations piece to this, and making sure that the perception is not that they're bad at it.
Gotcha.
Right. I mean, so I do think he made some adjustments. I don't think it was ever as bad as maybe it was being painted. But they did have some adjustments to make. They did. They needed to make adjustments with players and parents and the public and, all kinds of stuff. I've seen a coaching staff that is humble enough and introspective enough to look at where they need to improve, receive that feedback, and then keep it moving. Because ultimately, this is all going to come down to winning games on the football field in the fall. So get all this other stuff out of the way and start focusing on football.
B. Will, what do you make of the kind of uneventful news about Auburn having no players to enter the portal?
I mean, Ike and Mike already said plenty. It's good. We saw what we thought was everybody taking stock of the program, which is kind of the best part about all of the mess of the last few months is where you stand with the program, and the program knows what you think about it because you decide to leave as a player or you talk trash, and every player who comes to Auburn has committed or transferred to Auburn has heard everything that those former players had to say. They've heard former players' parents say what they had to say, and it's a lot on the table. So there's no guessing anymore. You saw the coach's reaction to being, trying to get crucified by his, I don't want to say his superiors because it's not chain of command, but by the powers that be. So you saw his response to that, and his response, and we've said this plenty of times over the last few months, earned him more respect than it lost him. And I think the result is a convalescence of the essence of the culture that he wanted to build, but it probably fast forwarded it by like a whole season. To spend their will, but it's like you're not going to leave the SEC program that just beat Bama when you were primed to start. They're not going to do that, so they're going to hang around reluctantly. They're going to play, but they're not really going to be on board with how he does things or want to be there early or whatever it is that they didn't like about how Brian Harsin did things. And we would have been another full year away from every player on the roster believing in the coach, believing in the coach's plan, and willfully wanting to live up to the standard that the coach set. We got there faster because everything got pulled out of the closets, put out in front of everybody to see. And I think this is a net positive. And that's what nobody jumping in the portal tells you. I mean, if anything, the people who have come here over the last few months, the new signees and the transfers, would have been the ones to say, you know what, I don't know about this. I don't like it, because everybody else had been here. So those new guys came in here. They knew exactly what they were getting into. Yep, I'm here to work. Everybody's on board. It's a good sign.
Speaking of transfer portal, I'm hearing that Auburn is looking at guys at O-line. I'm also looking at guys at wide receiver. And one of the things that I've also been hearing when you talk about the transfer portal is almost like we feel like Auburn needs a win in the transfer portal in terms of getting someone to fill a key position of need. What does a positive sign looks like in this portal? I don't know if there's a particular person that you feel we should get, or just addressing a certain position group. B, what does that look like for you in terms of being able to look at what Auburn does this offseason in the portal and say, you know what, we did well there?
I don't think the portal is going to be something I'm looking towards for success or lack of success. And I think the reason is because the biggest success this season will be Harsin taking the people who decided to stay and decided to come here, that whether they're new signees, whatever, making them more productive than they were. Because if they were here and they played, then we have data on how they looked. We know how they looked in year one under Harsin. It's getting those same pieces to play and play better. That will be the telltale of what type of program we are and where we're headed and what he's building. How much he could convince guys who have not been here, who don't know him, who didn't have Auburn on their radar before they jumped in the portal a week ago. That's not a metric of success for Brian Harsin. That is a where can I go to get the most NIL money or to get the most on air time on primetime networks to boost my draft stock and production. And there is no reason for any player who is prime at their position to believe that that is Auburn right now, unless it's a defensive back. And we're set right there. So I don't really think they would come here for that. So we aren't a premier landing spot for top tier offensive talent yet. We can change that if he takes the same players that looked so mediocre in the second half of games, the second half of last year, that looked so mediocre against Houston, so mediocre against Bama, and turn that into an offense that instead of being the reason we lose games is now the reason we win games. That will be the metric that determines whether or not we can pull transfer players going forward. But right now, transfer success in the portal, pulling players that have high star ratings out of high school or productive last year at their college, it doesn't mean anything for the staff. That's not something that they could pound their chest about right now.
Gotcha. And I see some Playboy D commented about a potential edge rusher from UCLA. To me, that's a position group that it would be cool to see us grab somebody there. Just we know what Derek Hall means, Ekuliota means,
Dylan Brooks,
Brooks, but you need depth, and so I'm curious to see if in the event that someone goes down, we have numbers and guys there who can fill in for those guys. So to me, that's an important position, and I'm keeping an eye on. Yeah. But Mike G, what say you, sir?
Oh yeah, I agree with B. Right now, we're not a premier landing spot for offensive talent. So that doesn't mean that we can't be, but just what Brian said, it's going to hinge upon him being able to take this group of guys and produce a result that makes other guys say, I'm going to go play in that system and take my talent. That guy knows what he's doing with players. Now, we'll tell you, I have heard it said elsewhere that this year's team is one of the least talented teams we've ever had on the Plains. I disagree with that statement wholly. I think this may be from a skill position. This might be one of the most inexperienced teams that we've seen, but inexperienced and talentless aren't the same thing. And these guys have a lot to prove. I think they're going to come out hungry, and I think they're going to put a lot of their doubters to rest through the first 5 games of this season. It's easy and it's lazy, essentially, to just be scared about what you haven't seen. But if you've got the right perspective on what happened last season, you take into account all the things that happened this offseason, and talking to players, understanding the work that they're putting in, how they feel about the system, looking them in their eyes and understanding that they believe it. They actually believe, hey, like, we've got something special. Doubt us at your own peril. I will buy that all day long and twice on Saturday until they go out on the field and prove otherwise. So I just think we've got a lot. There's a lot. This is the building block for recruiting and drafts. And this year is going to be the year where people understand the trajectory of the program. There's no way around it. So a lot of the judgments that people were making on the 2021 season, I will actually be making on this season. Now, my standards aren't SEC West or it's not going well. And, we did a segment with Zach over at Locked On. Auburn has the hardest schedule in the country next year. And in the top 10, 8 of those teams are in the SEC. Top 10 hardest schedules in the country are in the SEC. It's going to be an absolute gauntlet. But with the kids that we have, that means you get to test yourself against the best. You go out and you win games. There's no question about where you stand. I don't care what anybody says. This is the SEC West, man. You don't luck up into a good season. You have a good season because you worked your ass off and you're good. You may have lucky moments, 2013 was a great team. They had lucky moments, but that was a good ass team. This season, I think these guys are ready to go out and prove that they're a good team. They are. I think that the staff is hungry to prove that they're a good coaching staff as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in this thing right now is hungry. And everybody wants to eat. So if everybody's hungry and everybody wants to eat, ain't nothing left but to call up Uber Eats.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that one.
I was wondering too.
Yeah,
I
was really wondering where you were going with that. Okay.
Oh my, Uber Eats.
that's
You're
the
muted,
2020.
He was going somewhere. I was like, this is finna be good. And then call
Oh
Uber
my
Eats.
god.
Yeah, that's the 2020.
That's what I got.
The 2022 way
Right.
of saying we gonna eat, right? Nobody goes to the grocery store anymore. They call it Uber Eats. But yeah, I'm excited about what they're gonna do. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. I refuse to let the optimism vampires suck all the juice out of this next season. And I hope that the players stay focused and they ignore a lot of what's being said by some of what I'll call the fair weather fans.
Yeah.
On social media.
Yeah.
Just keep your head down, keep working, man. Get this thing done. People are going to hate no matter what you do.
Well said, other than the Uber Eats joke.
Quality dad joke stuff. Come on, man.
Okay, all right, all right.
Still here. We have to do dad jokes for Zach.
You know what? You framed it as a dad joke. I'll let you live. Live.
There you go.
Before we go to the break, do you think a lot of the sentiment about Auburn not having any talent is because we've been lulled to sleep into believing that because we don't play a lot of guys, in terms of depth, because we don't see it, we don't have it. And I think that that's carried over to this current staff, that because we haven't seen a lot of these guys, then they can't play.
I mean, I think it's a mixture of people being enamored by star ratings and people being disappointed that high profile portal guys didn't land at Auburn. And so it's like, well, we don't have this guy who is in the portal, so we don't have talent. Like it's a false equivalency, right? Like just because we don't have that guy doesn't mean we don't have talent.
Yeah.
And the part of it is what you're saying is like, well, I haven't seen it, so I don't know if they're any good. If they were any good and we were what we were last year, why was that guy on the team but not seeing the field? I think that's kind of a very lazy take, because I would argue of the three quarterbacks and people, I know people hate when I bring up stuff like this, but get over it before I say it. Of the three quarterbacks that were in that Bama quarterback room, Mac Jones may end up being the best, but he sat behind two other guys, right? He sat behind Jalen Hurts and Tua. He may end up being the better of those three. So you're telling me that because Mac Jones, quote unquote, couldn't see the field, then he wasn't better. And I get it. Tua was good. Jalen Hurts was good. So you're like, well, that's not the same thing because both of those guys were good. It's not my point. My point is that sometimes sitting doesn't mean that you don't have talent.
Right.
Exactly.
And so just because you haven't seen a person on the field or because they sat does not mean they don't. Jamison Williams couldn't see the field at Ohio State. Could not crack the starting rotation at Ohio State. He was one of the best wide receivers in the country last year at Alabama.
Yeah.
So again, sitting does not automatically mean you don't have talent, or even that you're not more talented than I would argue Elijah Canyon might have been the most talented wide receiver we had last year.
Indeed, he was.
Did not see the field.
Right.
So again, it's not about how much playing time you get is not the only indication of how much talent you have.
Right.
Jarquez Hunter, supremely talented running back. We just have Tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't like the equivalency that people bring to, well, if they're not getting playing time, they can't be good. And that's just not a true statement.
And then you use that assertion to say this is the least a talented team
Right.
ever at Auburn, or one of the least talented teams. No, you just haven't seen the talent utilized. I don't think it's fair to say that they're not talented. I think there's tons of talent on this team.
I mean, you saw that with the Auburn team that went to the national championship. Most of those guys, the core group, went 3-9 the previous year.
Right.
It wasn't because they weren't talented. There was clearly other issues going on there, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, same thing happened with the undefeated Auburn team that, we talk about all the time with Jason Campbell and them. They had a terrible season the year before that.
Yeah.
Well, an underwhelming season based upon like what
the expectations.
Like, they didn't get more talent the next season. They just played better.
How many draft picks did we have from the national title team?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I have to go look.
Talking about Cam and them?
Yeah.
I know Cam fairly.
I want to say it was 4. I think only 4
might
guys
have
got
been
drafted
like
off
3 or
that team.
4.
3 or 4. Yeah.
4 guys. That's it. So, I mean, it's not always I agree with Ike wholeheartedly. Just say it louder for the people in the back. Yeah. Just because a guy lost a job doesn't mean he doesn't have talent. Guys lose jobs for all kinds of reasons that fans don't hear.
Right.
But it doesn't mean he's not talented. Coaches may be just waiting on him to mature in some other areas. Like, the best guy's not always on the field. But the best guy's not always the right guy either for your team. So the coaches have to demonstrate to us an ability to be able to evaluate talent. Ike's example about Jamison Williams. Somebody didn't think he was a starter.
Yeah.
I wonder.
This is for you, Brian. Kirby Smart didn't think Justin Fields was good enough to start at quarterback for Georgia.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, it's just such a subjective business. Talent eval. One guy looks at another guy. You're trying to project how all these kids are going to do, and the only surefire way to not fall fire to making mistakes in that area is just to recruit so many good kids that if one busts out, the next one's definitely going to be a hit.
Right.
The Kirby Smart, Nick Saban approach to it. They can get it wrong more than other people because they can backfill.
Same thing with Ohio State, man. It's not Ohio State still has good. They lost Joe Burrow and Jamison Williams and are still one of the best teams in their conference. It's not like they lost 2 guys who could have been the best guy. Well, Joe Burrow 100% was the best guy at his position when he left school. Jamison Williams, probably one of the best guys at his position when he left school. Both of those guys couldn't see the field at Ohio State.
I got some questions for Ohio State too. While we at it. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, well, fair. That's not a bad point, B. Listen, let's get to the break because we have another topic that we're eager to discuss with you guys. But we want to know what you guys think about the fact that there is stability at Auburn. What do you think about what we do in the portal? Let us know in the comment section whether you're watching on replay or you're watching live with us. Get those thumbs up, guys. Be sure to like this video. We'll pause to acknowledge the sponsors of the War Report.
The War Report's Wednesday Night War Room is brought to you by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. University Ace Hardware, located at 2101 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama, right across the street from the Auburn Mall and next to the movie theater. For all of your hardware needs, Ace is the place. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
I see some of you understand that Ike Jones can be a prophet because you've taken heed to the prophecy of get on board. This is like Noah, man. I'm out here telling y'all, get on the ark before it floods. And then you standing out there looking silly. $5.99 is your entry ticket to the ark, ladies and gentlemen. All aboard.
It's very biblical.
Thank you. But yeah, now we have some great content coming up. So we appreciate all of you who are continuing to support what we're doing at the War Report. Get on board so you can get all of that great content $5.99 per month for the patron level, supported level $3.99. We love all of you all the same, just some of you a little bit more. The Lee County Humane Society is where you can donate your dollars to help us be a part of some of the great things that are going on in the community. They are they're doing rescue animals. Man, I saw somebody in the comments saying that they recently got a rescue animal. Mike G and I, you see us pictured here with our rescue animals. It's definitely something that brings some joy to your life, and this can be one of your best friend for life. So make sure that you are a part of making those types of moments happen for other families, helping the Lee County Humane Society in their goal to do that. Just hit the About section. The GoFundMe is there. 50 cents on every dollar goes towards them. This show and every show, we are giving away free stuff. And today it is an AU t-shirt sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Our guy, Walt Taylor, in the comments, if you see him, give him a virtual high five and tell him we appreciate all the support that he's giving. But you need to hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comments, and you have to be present in order to win that. Outside of that, y'all know we are doing the podcast stuff and we are kicking it into high gear over on our podcast. So make sure you are locked in with that. Mike G wants to tell y'all about some of the exciting news that we have coming up. Listen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm just trying to tell y'all. I'm not going to give too many more warnings. You're just going to have to see in a minute. But Mike G, tell them what we got coming up. Man.
Hey, listen. So we took the time. We're bringing back Building Rapport. Building Rapport is making a revival this offseason. So, wow. So we sat down with Jay Fair, Auburn wide receiver. This young man, people, is dynamite. Dynamite. This was a fun interview Ike and I had with Jay Fair. So shout out to him. He took some time to sit down and talk with us about all things that are happening this spring and this summer. And we want to play for you guys just a tiny snippet of that interview. Okay, Jay, we've talked to Robbie Ashford and we talked to TJ Finley, and we asked them who they thought the fastest guy on the team was. Right. Got some curious answers. TJ Finley said, watch out for Jay Fair. Robbie Ashford says the whole team runs 4.3s.
You know who he ultimately said was probably the fastest, though?
Shed. He said Shed is running low 4.3s here. So, in your estimation, who is the fastest guy on this team right now?
I'm gonna give y'all some tea here.
Okay, talk to us.
It was about a couple weeks ago. We did some 1080s on this. It's basically this machine that tracks your acceleration within so many yards. Mm-hmm. And we did it twice, back to back. Now, the first time I won, I had the fastest time out of all the receivers, but I think I had the second or third fastest time on the team. And the receiver talking about, oh, this don't matter. It was a fluke. Nobody was really trying. I said, okay. So we did it again, and I ended up having the fastest time again out of all the receivers, but like second. I think I was the second fastest on the team that time. The only person who was faster than it was Nehemiah
Pritchett. I knew it was going to be Pritchett. They said he got burners, man.
They said he got slides.
The other dude was DJ James. So Nehemiah.
Oh, I didn't know DJ James had it like that.
Slide for real.
Okay.
Yeah, DJ slide. But Shed is fast, though. Shed is fast, yeah.
Oh, so maybe Robbie was telling the truth. Everybody out there running 4.3s?
Everybody slide for real.
So, okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that speed on the field then.
Jay Fair joined us. This was a fun conversation with a very exciting and dynamic young man. So, Building Rapport, we're going to drop that one at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Watch out for that. Jay Fair. Jay, if you're watching, thanks.
For sure. Guys, let's talk about it. Let's talk about NIL because everyone else is talking about it. NCAA wants to crack down on NIL, particularly with boosters who are disguising NIL deals or payments as pay for play. In the next few weeks, they want to work to do that. And it's interesting because there have been coaches. B's favorite non-Auburn coach came out and said that they need to, I believe he used the word safeguards, I believe. Mike G, is this long overdue? Because you've been talking about this a lot. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, now the report says it was sources. Sources say that a crackdown is coming on NIL collectives, right? So what is that? That's boosters getting together, pooling money, and essentially just throwing a bunch of cash at athletes for no real return, no services rendered. And I think what they're trying to say is this is just supposed to be like legitimate business deals. NIL was always supposed to be about letting the athlete capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. It was not meant, even though that's what it's turning into. And this to be just a free-for-all where boosters just give players money to go to a certain school. Now, why I think Auburn is doing it the right way is that, you know, in conversations with some of the athletes that have gotten bigger NIL deals, these are legitimate contracts they've signed.
Yeah.
And particularly NIL, Auburn has a format in place where a student athlete signs up, and for the money that he receives, he is getting paid monthly. Now, we did this interview with Rick Davison. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. And they have what they call fulfillment. Here are all the things you have to do because you got paid. Now, if you stop doing the things on that list, guess what? Just like any other job, you stop getting paid. And that is how you keep NIL legit. That's always what it was intended to be. Now, I know for some of these companies, there's no real return on investment with NIL. Not measurable anyway. So if you get a big enough name, then sure, Tank Bigsby is drawing attention to your business. But is our star tennis player providing that same value? Probably not. But I still want him or her to get their bag too.
Right. Sure.
But the way that you keep it fair is you force, like, listen, if you're going to have an NIL shell company set up, you're forcing people to do it the right way. And there are plenty of alumni that own legitimate businesses that can afford to set up legitimate NIL deals with athletes. The Texas one that pays their old linemen $75K a piece a year, that company has been in business. It's not some fly-by-night company. It's not a sham. And the guy who runs it, he's a millionaire. He just decided, I want my school to get quality offensive linemen. If you come to Texas and you're an offensive lineman, you qualify to do an NIL deal with me. I'm okay with that. But what a lot of fans don't know, because they just hear these numbers and they're not actually looking into the deals that these players are signing. That's what's happening a lot of places. There are a few ridiculous deals. And I know some people are skirting the rules, but I don't like fans penalizing us for not skirting the spirit of NIL and trying to do it the right way, all in the name of keeping up. You know, Texas A&M may have signed the best class ever, but I'll tell you what, if they didn't do it the right way, this will be the last best class ever they signed. So good for you. You took advantage of it the wrong way for 1 year. They were always going to try to rein this in. I saw it from the beginning, and it's happening now. So that's all it is. I mean, and I'm not against it. I want athletes to get paid. But even when you talk to their parents, I had a conversation with a parent just today talking about how he doesn't want his son to be distracted by this.
Yeah.
So it does. It needs some regulation. It's year one. They were always going to figure it out. I just didn't get the panic about why we weren't doing. Most of the fans complaining about what we're not doing in NIL don't even understand what we're allowed to do or not allowed to do.
That's the most frustrating thing about any of
That's
these
the frustrating thing.
Like, y'all don't even know what y'all talking about. Like, what are we even having to cover? You don't even understand what's going on.
Yeah, the university's role is fairly
where
small.
the blame should fall for us falling behind in NIL. It's like you don't even know where it's supposed to go, but you just start arbitrarily assigning it. It just is so frustrating.
Yeah, listen, if you want NIL money to fly and you want to know where it comes from, walk into your bathroom, turn on the light switch, and look in the mirror. The community is what's supposed to take care of this for us, not the school.
Right.
And then what you do is you give the coach a legitimate recruiting tool that he can use so that he can point to the community and say, look, our community takes care of our athletes. I don't broker those deals. I can't promise you a deal. But I can show you that they're taking advantage of it. And if you come here, you will have the same opportunity. And when Auburn is known for that, then, we'll catch up with everybody else on NIL. That's what I think. So, I mean, it still comes down to, putting winning teams on the field.
Sure. The only concern I have is that you just don't want certain kids who are actually in good situations. They're at a good school, being able to see the field, leave that situation, chasing an NIL deal, and you're going somewhere where you're probably not a good fit. You may not see the team. And it's just those are the things that makes me leery at times of this. Again, I'm not against kids getting paid, but a lot of kids, because of what the NCAA is trying to crack down on, I think those are some of the things that I would like to see get fixed in this, because some kids are already in good situations leaving for the bag.
Or hear me out. You're creating corruption because some of the schools who don't have a $6 million bag to give an athlete now are scrambling to try to make a deal happen for kids so they don't lose kids to other schools with more money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is what it is. You're going to create more problems.
Yeah.
With this. So it is. I want athletes to get paid.
Yeah.
I want athletes to get paid, and I think that there is enough of a market where people just want to give money and they have businesses that they want to promote, and just do it the right way, man. There's nothing wrong with asking for people to do it the right way. I'll die on this hill. I don't give a damn what other schools are doing and if they're doing it shady. I don't want to do it shady. You know why? Because so-and-so school will get away with it. And right. Auburn will be the one on
always
probation.
be the one that ends up like as soon as we start trying to toe the line, somebody's checking out. So like it is,
and we're under the microscope.
Inevitable every single time. So like, look, let's just not even try to.
Let's don't go there. And then all the people who were crying that we weren't doing nothing with NIL will be on their soapbox about how our leadership sucks and calling for somebody's head. Hey, break, man.
B. Will, give me your thoughts, man, about this. So how you feel about this whole ordeal?
It's crazy that the NCAA is the one who's trying to come up with some constraints to this thing, because honestly, all of this is their fault.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Next,
they had we heard whispers about this starting, at least 10 years ago. When did Northwestern bring that suit to federal court about whether or not college athletes were employees?
Yeah, it was player led too. Was it the quarterback Fitzgerald?
It was a few quarterbacks. Not a few quarterbacks. It was a few. It was a
right. It's a collective of students.
Yeah. What they could have done was slowly, very slowly, when the only thing that athletes wanted to be able to do was get paid for showing up in NCAA football or basketball, sign some jerseys, and get a little cash in their pocket, take some pictures and sign autographs. It's like you could have let them do that. Now, eventually, don't get me wrong, eventually we would have always ended up here, where businesses are fighting to take advantage of the fact that kids need money, and whoever has the most influential alum base would take advantage by funneling it into their businesses to the players. And I still blame the NCAA for not seeing, here's exactly how this is going to go. How bad can it get if we just pull up the gate and let everybody just dash? How bad could it get? What's going to happen is somebody's going to get trampled. And that's what we're seeing right now. You're seeing Pitt, poor Pitt. They had their quarterback go to the league and their best wide receiver in the nation, Biletnikoff award winner, leave to go to another team. You know how much we are arguing and upset that we didn't recruit better out of high school. Now imagine if we had recruited an NFL drafted quarterback and the Biletnikoff winner. We don't win anything, and then they both leave. It's terrible. You do that well to recruit and develop, and you get nothing. And your guys can't stay because all of a sudden somebody can just promise them the world, maybe probably give them most of it, and they can go wherever. And it's a mess that if I know we can see it just as fans, we could see, oh, well, you know what? It's 2005. Let the kids sign some autographs. Hey, Todd Gurley shouldn't be suspended for signing jerseys. That's stupid. Hey, Johnny Manziel wants to sign some jerseys and get some bread. Let him do it. Who cares? Now, how far are we away from Johnny Manziel collecting a few $1,000 from signing some autographs? Why? Because they try to act like, oh, well, maybe if we just don't talk about it, they'll stop asking for. No, dummy. We know how much money football makes. What are you doing? You just hiding all that March Madness money? You think we don't know how much money you get from putting NCAA on things? It's not like y'all are throwing some resources down here to make this happen. The SEC is making SEC football happen. Y'all have nothing to do with it. You throw an NCAA seal on and you collect a bunch of money from rights. Why? Let these players, and this is probably the most important thing. If they had let this happen far enough back, then people wouldn't be clamoring nearly as much to pay players from the university's pockets. So this is, I think, probably the time that they let this happen. I think that has something to do with this, because that had picked up steam as well. The ideology of, you know what, they create this much value. The universities are pocketing the money. Hey, universities, why don't you break some off? Where coaches were like, they ain't getting none of my money. No, yeah, let's let them get paid for their faces on stuff and to do an endorsement. But they did it so hastily, with no rules, with no planning, with no foresight, that it's a mess. And I feel for the middle tier schools, the smaller schools, because you had a chance to develop a really good program wherever you were at. And this is kind of the blueprint of what it would be. You would recruit like hell, 2-3 stars. If you're in Iowa, or if you're like the Chanticleers, what's the team? Is it Charlotte? I think they just moved up to the Sun Belt from FCS. I'm not sure. But there are a few schools who every 3 or 4 years, once the players they recruit turn into juniors and seniors, and they have a majority mature team, they have an excellent season because they can coach and develop. Now, let one of your players have an outstanding sophomore campaign. They are gone. Why would I hang around in any of those mid-tier schools? Why would I hang around at Kansas?
Right.
We got what's his name?
Harris.
We got Harris. Why? Because he flashed at Kansas. We were like, oh, y'all are a terrible team with one good player. We'll take that off your hands. Thank you very much. It's gonna suck for them, and it's gonna continue to suck for those teams that can't field a competitive product, that don't get the eyes that the next school can get, and that can't get you the type of financial considerations that playing in the SEC can get you, that playing for one of the top tier recruiting schools can get you. And on one hand, I feel bad for those schools, but pretty soon here, we're going to get things organized. It's going to get organized. It's never going to stop, because we know illegal things happen behind the scenes when all of this stuff was against the rules. So that's never going to stop. It is never going to stop. Let me be clear about that. All the rules could change, and Jimbo may never get another best class ever, but he'll still get top 3 or 4, because we know what the administration and the boosters behind these types of schools, they're going to find a way. And the first thing I thought when they talked about those rules was, okay, boosters can't directly contribute to the collectives. All right, I'm going to have 3 shell companies, and my right-hand man is going to run one of the shell companies. Now, what's the difference? It's not me. Yeah, I sit on the board, but my, nephew-in-law, he's going to run the company. So it's not me. So he just wants to give $1 million to the collective. That's cool, right? According to the rules, I'm clear, right? And that's the type of little stuff that they'll have to start battling and figuring out how many degrees of separation need to be between the boosters and the operations. And it's going to be a mess for a while. It's the NCAA's fault, but it's the nature of the beast, man. It's just the nature of the beast. And it's going to be like this probably for the foreseeable future.
Ike, any thoughts on NIL? You haven't had a chance to speak on it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like Mike said, this was inevitable. They had to put some sort of reins around it, because, forever people with money will find a way to try to insert their money to get influence over whatever they want to. And so if you don't put boundaries around it, then they're just going to keep trying to do that sort of thing. So it was an inevitability. Probably should have been there from the beginning. But listen, what's done is done. I would hate for anybody to try to enforce any retroactive penalties. on people just because it's like, I mean, how do you enforce it? The rule wasn't there. You're just going to go back and be like, well, you knew. I mean, there probably has been a lot of violation of the spirit of the rule or the violation of the spirit of NIL going on, but I don't know that any of that is enforceable. What I do know is that, you know, I guess the frustration from a lot of people is, well, while it was legal, why weren't we going out there doing it? But again, this is where I agree with Mike. We be the ones that the NCAA would come and be like trying to make an example out of. And I just don't want to be in that position. It's too often that people try to make it seem like Auburn is this unscrupulous university because we get caught with our hand in the cookie jar. But it's like, no, Auburn is the ones that have always tried to do it right. And then we all every now and then we're like, man, come on, bro. Everybody else doing it. And then we do it and NCAA be like, see, look, I told y'all don't. And it's like, no, bro, like we just stay above board, get players that have something to prove, let them prove it out there on the field. And, you know, if they want to pull, you know, the situation where they have an amazing year at Auburn and then they transfer to some other school, then by all means, let them do that, you know. But I think what we do have at Auburn is we do have a very lucrative donor base that we can capitalize on. So if we get the talent in here and they perform on the field, it's time for those people to step up and say, okay, I will do my part and not just, you know, shout from behind my TV screen or backdoor, you know, channel to try to put pressure on people. I'm going to put my money up and we'll get these kids the NIL deals that they deserve. And then let Auburn's team of people who, by the way, if you guys missed us talking with Alan Green about this, you know, the NIL department at Auburn was recognized for their excellence in doing stuff the right way. So again, this perception that Auburn's not doing NIL, it only exists amongst people who want to push that narrative as Auburn fans. Like actual people who deal with NIL stuff know that that's BS.
Right.
And again, to a point you made earlier, Ike, if you're star watching, you're assuming that because you're not getting the stars, that Auburn's not doing nothing with NIL.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Or if we're not announcing the deals that these guys are getting. You got to remember, this is not really public information. You only know if they decide to disclose. Right. Or if the company makes a public announcement that they've signed an NIL deal. The actual worth of those deals are those players' private and proprietary information. Right. So there's just a lot of assumption being made, to Ike's point, that we're not doing anything. But to make that statement, you have to first understand what we can and we can't do. And I will die on this hill. They don't like us. The powers that be don't like Auburn. Look how they wanted to bury us. We had to be perfect during the whole Bruce Pearl basketball thing to come out the way we did. People were just waiting on the hammer to drop on Auburn. Don't give them a reason. I don't care what any other school is doing. We need to do it right. And it can't be, you know, to Ike's point about we have the donor base to step up and do this. This can't be about who the coach is either.
Right.
This can't be. I mean, because if you're withholding NIL money from athletes because you don't like Brian Harsin, you suck. Because you're not hurting Brian Harsin. Brian Harsin is going to leave here a millionaire, a multi-millionaire, no matter what kind of job he does.
Regardless of what happens this year, Brian Harsin will be a millionaire based upon the contract that he's already signed. So all you are doing is hurting the football program.
That's it.
And the athletes.
And you're setting us back. Because if you're so worried about the arms race that is NIL, you'll pour money in no matter who the coach is. Because if you don't, you're only hurting Auburn and the athletes.
You know what? To that point, I remember I was listening to a podcast. I think it was about Monty Jones. He was talking about how LSU is actually the best coaching job in the nation. And the reason that it is because you have a concentrated talent pool. There is no other school in the state that competes with you for recruiting. But more than that, their recruiting never falters no matter who the coach is.
Right.
So they said going back to Saban, Les Miles, Orgeron, and now Brian Kelly, they were like, if you're a Louisiana boy, there's a really, really, really good chance you're going to end up at LSU.
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name? Les Miles consistently recruited still fairly well against Nick Saban for the guys in the state. Like 1 or 2 snuck out to Alabama, but not a lot. He didn't lose a lot of guys to Nick Saban, and that for that reason, their floor for recruiting, he's saying, is higher than almost anybody else's floor for recruiting. And I was like, you know what? I think he's right about that. And in that way, that is how these collectives, when done properly, it can help set your recruiting floor. And that's something that has fluctuated wildly for us from coach to coach and administration to administration, because apparently it depended how much the boosters liked the coach at that moment to determine how much support they gave them, which determined how well we could recruit. And it also depended on the coaches as well. But now, if you're telling me that NIL can be its own independent thing where the community says, here's what we want to give you because we believe in you and we're glad you chose our home as your home, then that can help set that recruiting floor. And that's something to get excited about.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Good point, man. Good point. Listen, let's get to this giveaway. Good talk on NIL. We'll have a lot of more opportunities because we got a lot of content surrounding NIL. So we'll definitely follow up on some of the content you guys are exposed to. But it's time to give away something.
Yeah, we're going to get y'all this little t-shirt here. We know what to do. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, as always, sponsoring today's giveaway. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments if you want to be able to enter the drawing. Y'all know I ain't playing around with this no more, man. If y'all want the t-shirt, you just going to come on up here and get it, man, because we about to hit this button. 62 entrants right now. One of you will be winning this shirt. Make sure you are still present. If you're not present, then you didn't even just hear me say that, so it doesn't matter. But Richard Wentland is who should be getting this shirt. So if you are still here, we need to see you say something in the comments so that we can get your information and get this shirt out to you ASAP and pronto.
Indeed. Listen, we're in a new particular segment of the show where we actually interact with you guys, man. If you got a question, definitely put it in the chat and on the comments, and we'll do our best because we already got a few that we have gotten to. And one of the first questions or one of the first comments that we got here, let's see if I can find it, is Mr. John Brannon says Rogue Shop order on the way.
Hey.
Speaking of which, some of you may be wondering what is Rogue Shop? Here it is.
This segment of the War Rapport is brought to you by RogueShop.com. If you're in need of high-quality, all-natural herbs and extracts that contribute to a happy and healthy lifestyle, Rogue Shop is the place for you. With a variety of products that contribute to a healthy sleep, lower stress, and a happy mood, Rogue Shop has you covered. Visit RogueShop.com and use code Rapport today. Tell them the War Rapport sent you. Hey, shout out to our guy Richard at Rogue Shop. He's got the goodies there. You should go get some. They are reasonably priced. And I have heard great feedback. Richard sent me some stuff, and he's always got something new. Sometimes he'll text me. He's like, Mike, I got that new. And I'm like, all right, send it on through. I will test so I can talk to the folks about Rogue Shop. So support us by supporting our sponsors, RogueShop.com. Use Rapport, get that 10% off.
Speaking of Richard's here.
Hey,
congratulations,
Richard.
Good sir. You know what to do. And in case you don't, here's what you need to do. Email us at business@thewarrapport. We need your physical address and shirt size. Please be sure to include shirt sizes, because what size will we give you, Mike G?
Medium. It won't fit.
It won't
doesn't matter.
Just
Doesn't
off
matter.
the rip. So if you wanted to fit, put the correct shirt size as well as your physical address, and we will have you covered. Congratulations again, Richard. Now, let's get back to some of these comments. Bryson Bridges, still waiting on that Discord, Mike G. Happy birthday to your wifey.
Happy birthday.
She hates Star Wars, but makes it easy for me to remember. War Eagle. Congrats again to the wife. What about that Discord, Mike G?
You know what? Listen, gonna have a lot of free time on my hands here in like a week. So yes, we will eventually get to that Discord. We are planning it. We're trying to figure out how to make it the best experience for you guys. So
I tried to tell y'all what was going down in the month of May. Y'all don't listen.
it's a lot of, we don't want to just do it just to do it, and we want our Discord to be different from other Discords. But most of all, I want it to be a respectful, just like a fun kind of hangout place in between shows. So if you're not on the War Report, you go to the War Report Discord. We can have the same kind of interaction that we have in our chat right now. And we can drop, a few things to you guys early in there in terms of things we're hearing. You guys can interact with us more directly on a regular basis. But we need that to be a good thing. It will be somewhat exclusive, meaning we're not just going to be blasting out like Twitter invites to the Discord. I don't care to have 1,000 people in the Discord. I just want to get quality commentary and comments in the Discord. So community, it's all about community. That's what the Discord is going to be. We're just debating how we're going to execute that. So stay tuned. Discord coming.
Austin Price asks, and I'm assuming you're saying, who do y'all think is the next commitment? And I don't think we got a chance to answer because Auburn picked up a commitment out of the portal in Dazzling Worsham. I didn't know the kid.
I've been trying to look for his name pronunciation. I don't know if it's Dazzling or Dazalin. I'm trying to find it right now, actually.
Mr. Worsham. All right, we're gonna go with that. And he's basically out of Trussville, Alabama. So what's interesting is that the guys we're getting out of the portal are Alabama natives, a lot of guys. So it's interesting to see him come back home. He's a wide receiver, 6 foot, 185 pounds. He may have gained some weight or here or there since he's been at Miami, but he was at Miami, signed out of high school there. I believe he committed back in 2019. He was part of the 2020 class. He comes to join the Auburn receiving corps. So interested to read up on him. We'll probably talk more about him on a later show when we have more of his measurables and some information about him. Auburn Live. How do you guys feel on QBs? Who do you think will start?
Oh, man. If I had a nickel. Every time we got this question. I feel hopeful on QBs. I feel really hopeful. I think that we have great options. We got a little bit of experience returning, but most of all, I think there's talent in the QB room. And we'll see. I think that it's going to be less about the QBs and more about system and play calling.
Yeah.
So TBD, but I feel good about. I felt good about the QBs that we saw on 8A, and I feel good about the QB that we did not see on 8A. I feel really good about the QB that we didn't see on 8A. I don't think he can be lost in this discussion about who's potentially the quarterback in the fall. I also think it's possible that we switch quarterbacks at some point during the season and still have a good season. So,
I'll echo that. There was a time when I said I don't know who the quarterback is going to be, and that was like very concerning, right? Because for the longest of time, it was pretty clear who our number one QB was. Now I can say it and actually be like, as Mike G says, I'm hopeful, because what we learned coming out of spring is we have at the very least 2 capable quarterbacks. Now, you may have your preference as to who you prefer over the other, but Auburn is going into fall camp with at the very least 3, even 4, even though I don't think Holden Gariner will be much of a factor in the race this year. I'm excited and I'm hopeful because of our QB room. I really am. And that makes me feel good. And I don't have to guess who the quarterback is going to be, because I'm trusting that Harsin and the coaching staff identifies the right guy who fits what they want to do, who fits the game plan week in and week out. So I feel good about it, even though I don't have a clue who it's going to be. Guys, Ike, y'all have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I said this. I'll say the same thing that I always say. If we were to play a game Saturday, TJ Finley would be the starting quarterback. But until I've seen Zach Calzada and what he's able to produce, I can't predict anything. Like just based on talent alone, there's no, I don't know what his grasp of the system is, what his report, like I don't know any of that stuff yet about him. So again, if we were to play Saturday, it would be TJ Finley, I would assume. Outside of that, it's an open race as far as everybody is concerned. So it's still way too early to make that determination. There's still a lot of practices and a lot of evaluation between now and fall. So yeah.
Any new thoughts on that, B? No.
What y'all said, y'all said it.
Welcome, Ernest Brown.
Welcome, Ernest.
Hey,
Austin Price, you now are, you got a green name. Welcome.
welcome.
JP, is there any news on Jaleel Hurley flipping to Auburn? I have not heard any news. I know he got I know Dukes the Scoop feels really good about him right now. And that's kind of like the latest there. They feel like Auburn has a chance to flip him, but he's an Alabama commit.
Yeah, he hasn't rescinded his commitment yet
Yeah.
fully. I mean, there's been some talks about it. I honestly think that this is a classic case of being maybe a little Leon let for Auburn fans, Spike trying to celebrate before they got into the end zone with Jaleel Hurley, and they were like, "Aha, see, we flipped him, Bama," and then Bama turned up again. So we'll see. And again, I don't get too invested this early in the commitment cycle from any of these guys because there's so much that could happen between now and when they have to actually sign a letter of intent. Yeah. But apparently it's a conversation, but as far as I know, he's still at Bama.
Agreed. B. Will, this is for you. Corey Dubs want to know how you really feel about Jimbo Fisher.
He's all right. He's he's a national championship winning coach who wrecked a Ferrari and somebody just showed up and gave him a brand new one and then upgraded everything on it. And I'm wondering how some people get to live that life. I don't understand.
No. Man, you really depressed me there.
Yeah.
Brought my energy down.
I am excited that I am pretty sure he will not win a championship in the next 4 years because he's Jimbo Fisher. And so, I mean, I think he'll come close one year. He'll like go 11-1, but he'll lose an SEC championship game or something like that. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I don't know what he'll have to do to get fired there since they just like paying people for perception, but yeah, he's all right.
He got what did he get? Like a $75 million deal or something like that?
It was like a 10-year, 75, something like that.
It was crazy. They definitely brought the Brinks truck into his house.
Yeah. Philip Coleman, the NCAA just mad they ain't getting cuts in these deals.
I mean, how much more money do they need though? Like they're making plenty of money. Plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure they're getting theirs. There's no cut, man. It's a person and another entity deciding they want to do business together. Happens all the time, every day in our country. Somebody decides to do business with somebody else.
Yeah.
So should be I think it should be. We have to normalize this. This is okay.
Yeah, I do wonder though if at some point in time the NCAA is going to decide that they have to broker all of this though, like as to, if whether or not they're going to like put some sort of almost like agent arm together of the NCAA, and then all deals have to go through their thing, so they do get a cut of all the NIL stuff. Like I wonder if that's something that they're discussing doing.
Yeah,
so they can regulate it.
I don't think that's going. If they try to do that, I'm more than certain they'll get sued. If they try to insert themselves into these private deals between players and private businesses, they're going to get sued. What they can regulate, though, is they can regulate the schools and the alumni to some extent, because they've already set a precedent that they can hold the schools responsible for what alumni do. And that's one of the reasons why our NIL department reviews contracts to make sure that they're compliant.
Right.
So, they've got a system set up. And when, let's say, the athlete gets an offer, they have an app that they can enter all the information into. It goes off to compliance and it starts the whole process of making sure that deal is on the up and up. So we're doing it the right way. We're definitely doing it the right way. And I would like for a change for Auburn to be the model on how this is done, personally.
How soon do you think it'll be before a program gets its hand slapped over how it's handling NIL?
I give it a few months.
I was about to say it will be. I would say it's going to be before the end of this season, before the end of this calendar year. That somebody is going to do something in the NC. Like now that they've put some sort of teeth into things, they're just waiting. They have to make an example out of somebody. Like that's the only way that this feels real is if somebody gets in trouble.
It almost feels as though the push to really get this done is because they already see examples of where they may need to make an example of a program.
That's right.
So when you lay down the restrictions, shortly thereafter, someone's going to get caught with their hand in the cookie jar or have already been caught. So Bat Flips and Bangers. Love that name. Almost sounds like a band. Does this create opportunities for other guys, talking about NIL, for other guys who may have had someone in front of them at another school? Positive take on the transfers.
Yeah, I would say it does. Anytime a spot is vacated, an opportunity is created for somebody. There are going to be some guys that make bad decisions concerning transfer portal and NIL. And it's going to leave the door open for another kid to step in, whereas he might have just been stuck. The whole point of the transfer portal was to give kids more opportunities to get out of situations where they were never going to play. Now, let me tell you something about the transfers that we had. A lot of people looked at the transfers and just saw the number and said, look at all these kids who decided to leave. And I can tell you from a place of being in the know that was not the case with some of those kids.
Right.
Some of those kids were informed Auburn is not where you're going to play. So if you want to stay, you can stay, but there's no future for you here in football. And that's the best thing you can do for a kid if you have no intention as a coach of playing that kid.
Right.
Let him go someplace where somebody else sees value in him. It may be hard to hear if Auburn was where you wanted to be and you chose it, but there's a lot of different reasons that kids end up in that situation. And now, thanks to the transfer portal, there is an opportunity for that kid to immediately go someplace else and find the field. The worst thing that can happen to any kid in college is that you play 4 years of college football and you never get in the game. I can't imagine, but it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And there's enough football, and it's all based on some of it is politics, bad talent evals. There are a lot of decisions that get made, and some kids benefit from those decisions, but a lot of kids suffer from those decisions as well. A transfer portal is just a small way of trying to rectify some of the injustices that happen to kids when they choose a school and they were told one thing and then the coach got fired, or the coach didn't stand by his word, or just things happen in their life that necessitate a change.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I think it's a positive. I think it's positive.
I mean, I think that's the thing about a lot of this, right? Like, there is literally no thing that exists that doesn't have some negative aspect, right? Like, think about the we were just talking about this with a guy that we interviewed, and I can't tell y'all who that is yet. That was a horrible tease, and I apologize, but it's a real thing. But about how terrible the targeting rule has gotten, right? And we were specifically looking at the play with Jacoby McClain last year, right? Like, the targeting rule was put in there for player safety. But like, it's been enforced in some of the craziest ways. And so, like, Does that mean the targeting rule itself is bad? No, it just means we need to figure out a better way to enforce it. Need to have better opportunities for officials to be able to change the rule, right? When they throw the flag and they see it and they're like, you know what? Yes, it was this, but it doesn't violate the spirit of what the targeting. Like there are situations where technically, yes, that was targeting, but what the guy wasn't trying to. Like there was a terrible
Moultrie.
yeah, it was the Mississippi State game. That was awful, right? Um there's just situations where yes, a rule exists that there's a negative thing for it. Yes, there are negatives that can come from NIL. Yes, there are negatives from the, one-time transfer rule. Like there's negatives in all these things, but there's a ton of positives that can come out of these things as well. Right. And so I think if people stop majoring on the negatives and just let that inform the entirety of their opinion, and we just work to refine it as we go along so that we can extract more positives out of it, it will overall be better for these athletes, because that's who's been getting overlooked for years in all of these rules is athletes,
Right.
regardless of what it is, whether it's NIL, transfer portal, targeting, holding calls, pass interference. Like it's just, they don't really care about the athletes on the field in a lot of those instances. Right. Like, and so I am always going to be pro athlete. I'm always going to be pro athlete every single time. If there's something that it can be extracted from it that's going to be good for the athlete, then that is what I'm on board for. So I'd like to see these people be able to get an opportunity to profit from an organization that has been making really billions off of them over this span of time, but millions a year, hundreds of millions every single year off of them. Yes, they should be able to make some money. Yes, they should be able to find other opportunities without being penalized because they were 17 and some coach told them, you've got a bright future here, and then they get on campus and they don't see the field. Yeah, they should be able to change their mind. It's okay.
Right.
So,
right. Jimmy Carter, appreciate you, man. Who is a non-conference team that would be a dream matchup for you guys on Auburn's football schedule in the next few years?
I'm going to, just because like I missed being able to go to Penn State. Like I want to play them again at Penn State. I want to go to these, these like stadiums where like they say like the experience is just amazing, right? So like I definitely want to get an opportunity to do that again, just to experience that. The other place that people say has got like this amazing game day atmosphere. I don't know why people think Big Ten schools have amazing game day atmospheres, but like they say Michigan and Ohio State both have amazing game day atmospheres. I just want to go and see what all the hype is about.
Yeah, I think for me it would be Notre Dame.
I about to say Notre Dame is probably.
I would love to beat the shit out of Notre Dame. That would be a dream. It's only a dream matchup if we win. First of all,
facts. That is a factual statement, sir.
If we lose to Notre Dame, that's a special kind of hell I don't want to have to experience. On par with traveling to see a national title game and watching us lose in epic fashion. So,
right.
After that game was over,
don't remind me.
After that game was over, we were sitting at this restaurant, sad and dejected. And I looked at Caesar. And he looked me dead ass in my eyes and said, "Man, we could have watched this at home." I'll never forget that moment. Simple but true statement.
I mean, but prior to that game, we was having so much fun out in LA. Right? We was having so much fun, and that just killed all of it. I instantly regretted it. But I think because of that, I would love to beat the snot out of Florida State.
Florida State, okay.
Yeah. Not because of any game day traditions. I just want get back, and I just want them to curb stomp FSU for that game.
Their fans after the game made me want that too.
Yeah.
Boy, let me tell you something. They had zero class after that game was over.
Yeah.
They were obnoxious and they knew it. And what was so bad about it was they were such a small portion of the fans at that game. That was a home game for Auburn, guys. That Rose Bowl was a home game. We traveled so well. I had never been so proud to be an Auburn fan at that point. I was like, wow. Like our fans came from the corners of the country to fill the Rose Bowl. Orange and blue everywhere. It was beautiful.
It's like the end of the Avengers movie. Like we just assembled, and I just saw nothing. I saw like how you'll see nothing but Auburn fans, and you's like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of FSU fans somewhere in LA.
Mm-hmm.
No, like when we got to the stadium, he was like, oh, okay, this is why. It's nothing but Auburn fans. Had a buddy of mine who's a Bama fan who was like, bro, it sounded like Jordan Hare in that stadium. Like I heard nothing but Auburn fans. So it was
and the FSU fans, like half of those were their band. Their band, a few player families, and like other 150 that made the trip. Probably already lived in Pasadena.
Right. Antonio Smith says, question, I'm thinking about making a bet on Auburn winning the SEC. Is it too early or should I wait closer to the season? What do y'all think?
Hot damn, do it right now. You're going to get great odds. Prize Picks, look for the future section and put this bet down. Now, I'll tell you, I put $200 on Auburn to win it all. Plus 20,000. That's 40 G's if they pull it off. 40 G's. So I'm with you. I will make that bet with you. I'll make a secondary bet just on the SEC. It'll be fun. It makes it more interesting to watch too. Like when you're like, can you imagine if Auburn made it to the national title game and we're sitting there again? And I'm like, you know what? If they pull this off, I'm gonna go buy a Tesla.
Now, question, Mike G, is this why you go extra hard and break things when things don't go as well?
No, like I'm actually not a betting person. This is like one of the few ways I bet because I can just make the bet and then forget about it. And if it doesn't come true, if we're in contention late in the season, it's fun. Or we're not in contention at all. But I think in 2013, it was well after midseason that we found out we were in contention for a national title. Because we had lost to LSU like midseason, and then they started to gain some steam, and they closed out, obviously, winning 2 games against Georgia, Bama, and then, the Missouri, was it, in that SEC title game, I think, that we beat?
Yes.
So, I don't know, man. I'm just – I think it's fun. I think it's fun to do that. I encourage this. Put a little bit on it. Makes it interesting as you're watching the season. Futures bets are fun. They're fun.
Okay. Got a last one here. Steve Bradley. I was fixing to ask that question. C-Dub, do you think it could or would be bad enough for the death penalty, referring to programs in which the NCAA cracks down over their poor handling of NIL deals?
I don't think that at this point they could take that stance. It would have to be, for it to be death penalty worthy, you would have to show malintent by the institution themselves. And I'm telling you, the way the rules are set up, there's no reason. That is an unnecessary risk for any institution to take.
Yeah.
You have to just be blatantly passing money to players from school bank accounts on school checks with school letterheads.
Like McDonald's bags or something like that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, nobody would ever do that. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if like somebody who worked for your university had money in a McDonald's bag and you were like giving it to players like it was like a Happy Meal or something, or a quarter pounder meal. I got a vivid imagination. So sometimes I like imagine these crazy scenarios where people do stuff like that. And then, the school gets in trouble. But even in those scenarios, they didn't get the death penalty.
Right.
I'm saying in the hypothetical situation where some school would do that.
Right.
Because that's crazy. Like, who would just take money and put it in a McDonald's bag and hand it to a person and then get in trouble for that? Like, that's, I don't even know that anybody would ever do anything crazy like that.
You just have to stay away from inducements, man. No inducements. That is the word. That is the buzzword. You cannot induce a player to go to a school with an NIL deal. You just can't. Not if you're a university. Private businesses can do what they want, right? That's bottom line. And the school has to stay out of it. And even if you're having maybe side conversations with your donor base about, hey, get involved in NIL, that that conversation can be very overt and indirect, and there's still no reason for the school to get directly involved in it.
Yeah,
I can't think of a quid pro quo that a school would set up with a business to offer NIL deals that would make sense, will make the risk would be worth it. It's too easy to do this the right way, man.
right.
To James Buckley's point, so Yellowwood, my understanding is the
Pause.
way
Just pause.
my understanding is he is prohibited from making NIL deals because he sits on the board of trustees.
Right.
So the way to deal with that is he needs to come off the board or come off the board.
It is right. Yeah, your only two options are this one option.
Right. So, man, listen, our first midweek report is in the books, man. How we feeling, man?
That's it. That's
Not
it.
too bad. Not too bad. Hopefully y'all continue to rock with us. Hopefully y'all like the new intro. We got some more stuff coming up, man. So listen, man, I get tired of telling y'all need to be on board with us. You'll see.
Yeah,
Soon
don't
enough.
forget Jay Fair tomorrow. Jay Fair
Yeah.
interview. First thing in the
Absolutely.
morning.
I'm looking forward to that. That looks like a really good interview. But I tell the people what they need to become if they're not already.
You need to be a Patron sipper. Excuse me, a patron member of the War Rapport. $5.99 per month to get you in the space where you get all the goodies. I've been talking about what we possibly could be doing. One of those things is, possibly coming out here with this chat situation. And we might do that, but we probably are going to introduce a new tier for that of membership. We will see. But yeah, stay tuned, man. We got a lot of things that we want to be able to provide for you all. But until then, $5.99, you'll get all the goodies that we do have. And more things coming up for you all. The Lee County Humane Society is where we are doing our positivity into the universe. Outside of, doing the wonderful service of being here on the War Report with y'all, we do want to help in the community as well. So 50 cents on every dollar that you donate to the GoFundMe goes directly towards them. So you all can hit that GoFundMe link in the About section on our YouTube channel. It is also on our website at thewarreport.com. And speaking of the website, if you didn't win today, you can go to the website and get you some merch right there. Get your weight up in that way. Got a lot of merch that's available there. A lot of things that you can go in, a lot of ways that you can go and support the War Report. So we definitely appreciate those of you who have done that. Once again, the podcasts are popping out here. So you need to get on board with what we're doing on the podcast. Doesn't cost you any money to go listen to the podcast. People just go and listen and enjoy and get our numbers up so that we can continue our quest to come up off of these jobs. You already heard a lot about gummies and things of that nature. The Rogue Shop is where you can go and get that. RogueShop.com. Use code Rapport so that they know that we are the ones that sent you over there. I'm sure he will appreciate that very much. Our guy Mike G just teased it for you. Coming up tomorrow, conversation with Jay Fair. You definitely want to check that out. A lot of charisma, a lot of personality with that young man. Had a good time talking to him. So you all make sure you lock in with that. 9 a.m. Is that Central or Eastern, Mike, that you got that scheduled?
That is Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. That is going to be dropping for you here on the YouTube channel. Our conversation with freshman wide receiver Jay Fair.
He may be a freshman in classification, but I'll tell you what, that's going to be a man out there on that football field.
Yeah.
100%. I can't wait.
He said he lifts, like for real. He lifts.
There's a part of that interview. I don't want to give it away, but there's a part of that interview that I thought it was indicative of a winner's mindset. And, fans will be pleasantly surprised by the mindset of this team in the fall, I think that we're going to finish games because of that mindset. And I think that's going to be a lot better than people think because of it. So
I'm looking forward to it, man. Definitely. Guys, listen, if you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, we need you to do us a favor. Whether you're watching live or on replay, share this video and use hashtag #GetYourWeight up and help people find our content. Also, be sure to smash that like button on your way out of here. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe to us. We greatly appreciate it. And if you want to interact with us on social media, you can find us at The War Rapport. And if you're on TikTok, we're at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys, but be sure to check out the interview previewing in the morning. We'll see you this weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
Eagle.